That is not good, guys.
Insane.
Grab him. Oh! Yeah. Oh, shit. That is how they crunch up.
Dude, I'm about to throw some dough balls out there too. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. It has been, Cameron, it's been a while since I've made a video. It has been 120 days. Wow. On a bunch of my James River videos, I used a specific rig and I had a lot of questions about that rig. Pretty much all you're doing with this rig is just casting it, letting it float down the stream, the river, the creek, whatever, and it's finding you your fish.
Yeah, just get down there, buddy. Get down there and find me a fish.
So today we are tutorializing, I don't know if that's a word, the float rig.
All right, free and willy. Ah!
This is it. The float rig. It's got a bunch of different names, but that's just what I call it.
Yeah.
I've used this in many. I've used this in many of my videos. I know if y'all have seen it, catching all sorts of different fish.
Oh my God. Oh, that is something else. I'm on a fish. Damn, son. Damn, son. It's all right. Go ahead, get your fish.
I even used this on that 30-inch dock demon to catch that 50-pound blue catfish.
Oh my gosh. I don't really know how. Dude, do you see the bobber out there? Oh my gosh.
This is a much better angle.
Oh, but I gotta get this fish in. Oh!
Link is in the description below. Anyway, this is my go-to for fishing rivers or creeks with live or dead bait in a fixed position of the water column that you choose while it floats down the body of water. Boy! As you wait for your bobber to vanish and the bait to be slurped down by your river monster. Boom! So you may be wondering, can you use this rig in ponds or lakes? Somewhere that doesn't really have current? Absolutely. But in the still waters and the waters that's really doesn't have current or flow, you're not really utilizing all the benefits for this particular rig. But what about salt water? Yes, you can use it in the salt water. Again, you want to be, maybe you're fishing a inlet, or you know, you're fishing a certain part of the tide, but yeah, this is definitely not limited to freshwater rivers or creeks. But just don't be that one guy running this float rig while everybody else is putting baits on the bottom. You're gonna just be all through the lines, in their lines, making people pissed off. Really with any type of fishing, but this in particular, space and observation is key. Respect other people's space. Couldn't stress that more during these times, but you need space to be able to float this rig and be able to utilize how it works. So pretty much me and Cameron and I will be going over the who, what, when, where, all that good stuff about this rig, along with how to make it. It's very simple. It's very essential to know and have this rig because it works. What are you coloring?
I'm trying to make a sunset. My other one's over there.
It looks like a float rig.
It is.
So although fishing this rig involves a bit more effort than your traditional bottom rig fishing, which requires you to cast and sit down, this rig you will lose much less gear to the snags, because we all know rough ground and moving water is a recipe for disaster with snags and losing gear, which ultimately takes stuff out of your pocket. So look at that, we're already saving money. So this setup actually, even though it does have a bobber, it casts effortlessly, because pretty much the way it's set up is once it's cast, or when you're casting it, it's all together at the bottom and it's like pretty much one unit. Biggest advantage to me in my eyes with this rig is how much ground you can actually how much ground you can actually cover with this. I mean, the reason being is it is constantly on the move. I mean, to be honest with you, I would have called this the fish finder rig because it literally is floating down the water finding the fish. Having this floating down the water and just seeing this get pulled under, I mean, yeah, it's like brings it back to basic bobber fishing, but I'm not gonna lie, I love seeing that. You know you do too. We all started off with a bobber and a bluegill, or a bobber and a worm for a bluegill. But yes, this is definitely a tool, fishing rig, a fishing weapon, whatever, but you should have this available and have the supplies on hand when you go to like your rivers and stuff. It can catch anything. Like I said, live bait, dead bait. That's the size of the bait that I used for that fish. On the bottom, on the top, constantly on the move with the float fish finder rig. That's what we're gonna call it. The floating fish finder. Okay, let's not call it that. Okay, so what we have here is Cameron so nicely wrote tackle needed for this rig. We will start off with the line, a hook, a weight, a bobber, preferably one that you didn't paint during the quarantine, a bead, and optionally, I don't know if that's, what I'm trying to say is you can use a barrel swivel if you want, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so I know that some of that gear you've never seen before. Picking the size of all these different components depends on the size of the fish that you are targeting and the conditions of the water that you're fishing. That is right in the corner of the mouth too. You can be like Cameron right here. Catch yourself one of these. Look at that. What is that, Cameron?
Catfish.
Yes, sir.
That's all I'm entitled.
Right, you jerk. But yeah, Cameron caught one of those. He knows how to use this float rig. But get into all the variations of the gear, sizes of the tackle. The rig that I'm demonstrating right now, how to build with the sizes of everything, is more or less built towards fish that are maybe 20 pounds and heavier. Okay, so we're gonna start off here with my face and the GoPro. We're gonna start off with the line. Now, regardless of what you're using for main line, the line for this rig has to be mono or fluoro. Setting this rig up with braid is just gonna cause you a headache. Mono and fluoro would be the better option, but being a little bit more expensive, but it is less visible and it can take a little bit more of a beating. So keep that in mind when picking your line and judging the conditions of the water. Like the James River that I fish, there's a lot of big boulders and rocks that the line will hit against and stuff like that. So I want a good amount of abrasion. Braid doesn't offer that. Typically for the fish that I go after in the James River, I'm going to be picking anywhere from 40 to 50 pound tests. Now the length of the line for your rig, that is the most important factor in how you're fishing it. So pretty much it will dictate how far down or where in the water column your bait is going to be presented through the body of water. So in the majority of these videos, the majority of these videos when I fish this rig, I'm fishing it very close to the bottom, going for flathead catfish, blue catfish, stuff that picks off baits from the bottom. And it can be difficult because you don't really know how deep the bottom is, and depths are always changing. So unless you're swimming or scuba diving like well, not scuba diving, but if you're wearing a mask and swimming around in the river, unless you're doing that, the best way to get an idea of the depth of the water is to just take your line and cast out a bare weight. See how long it takes for it to sink and hit the bottom, and that way you can kind of judge how deep it is to get a better idea of where you want your bait to be. Now, a really positive thing about this rig is the line is too long, so you're going across the bottom and you get snagged up. As long as it's downstream from you, usually it'll come out no problem. Snag on a rock or a tree, when you pull it back, because of the float and the direction that the bait is going, pulling it back usually is not much of an issue trying to retrieve your rig. Now the hook, this is a VMC. This is something I think it's a 9. Use it on drum, obviously catfish, all sorts. Cobia, VMC, great hook, stays sharp. But again, you're picking the hook according to the size of the fish that you're targeting. Now obviously if you're fishing for smaller catfish, their mouths aren't going to be able to get over the hook as easy. You want the hook to be able to get into their mouth, but still be big enough for the hook to go over their lip once hooked.
That is the last thing so many bluegill and shad see.
Oh my god. So now that you've picked out your hook and your line, I've already done it, but say I was trying to fish waters that was maybe 2.5 feet. That's why 2.5 feet of line here that I snelled down to my VMC hook. Now, I snell my hook to keep the weight from damaging the line or the knot, which leads me to the next part of the rig, the weight. Okay, so this is the weight. Like this one, I use a 1 ounce. Now, if I'm using live bait or the water is really moving, I might bump it up closer to 2 ounces or put another ½ ounce or something on top of that. It's very important to use weights that are thin profile, meaning once this is on your rig, you don't want the fish to eat the weight and have it come in the way of getting hooked. So what I mean is, Cameron, put the weight on that. Okay, well, yeah, there we go. Yep. So there you go. That's what I mean. If you had a really wide weight or something and the fish came and ate it, it would have a harder time hooking it, as to where this, if they touch it, they're still gonna get that hook right in their mouth. Again, this is why the snell is important to me, because once it's hitting the hook, it's not hitting the knot. Say you had really fast moving water, and say you're even throwing just like a piece of cut bait, you may want to bump it up closer to 2 ounces. You also might want to add weight, say even if you're in slower water, but say you're fishing a live eel and they're really feisty and you want to keep him pinned to the part of the water column that you want to fish, so you might want to add another weight on there, not too much to where you would harm the bait, enough to keep him down. The quarantine painted bobber, you name it, we were painting it. I did this. Okay, getting down, nearing completion of this rig. Oh, so this is what we have so far. Line, hook, weight. Next part on your rig is the bobber. It should be large, very easily visible. Now this is about the size to support the weight and the bait below it, because you gotta imagine if you're using something smaller and you're using a 1.5 ounces, whatever, plus a bait on the bottom, the actual amount of bobber being showed in the water is going to be less. So if you have a bigger bobber to support that weight below it, it will keep it afloat up top, and you will have more surface area of the actual bobber that you can see. When you get these bobbers, they usually have a piece of plastic. I forgot if it's one piece of plastic or two, and you do not want that. You want this to freely slide up and down the whole rig. It casts great because when you're casting it, all the weight is together right here and it casts as a unit. Once it's casted out, say you cast it upstream, hits the water, say this is the water level, the bobber is going to stay here and your rig is going to go down to where you want it to be fishing. You're thinking, okay, well, you need to have something to stop it up here. Bead and the optional swivel. Thank you, sir. And that's the bead. So you put the bead on, and there's your bead. So you have your hook, followed by your weight, followed by your quarantine bobber, and your little bead. This is why I say the swivel is optional. At the end of your actual rig line, or the line for the rig, the 40 to 50 pound mono in this case, you need to have this bead stop. So, I mean, I do a bunch of really interesting ways of having this bead stop up here, but the most simplest way for you to do it is to just take your barrel swivel, tie it on. This is just a simple clinch knot. We're all stopped up here, so that way when the rig comes through with the bead cannot go past there to your main line. Pretty much it. That is the rig. Yes, I'm telling you, like, other than finding the depth, especially if it's the bottom that you're trying to really fish, or just kind of scan the bait across the bottom, that can be difficult. But the biggest problem that I see with this rig, say the water is running from behind me to in front of me, so I cast it upstream, it's floating down past me. I see at the end of their cast, like, people think that if they're holding on to their line, not letting any more line out, but holding their rod, that it's still being fished. That's not right. The problem with that is, say that the water, okay, let me switch it up again. Let's say the water is coming from my left to that way. Let's say it's coming across, you're fishing it like this. Say you're not letting the line out. Say you're almost near the end of your spool. What happens is the current is going to pull your weight to the rig. This is what your rig is going to be looking like, and your bait's going to be right beside the bobber or right beneath the bobber, right at the surface. Can that still catch fish? Absolutely. But that's not how I'm typically catching fish at the river. Biggest problem I've seen, I hope that makes sense. That's really hard to explain. Come to think about it. Think about it. Like, you're coming down the river, there's no more line, so the current of the river pulls it automatically and brings everything together, which is not how you want to fish it. So that's why this is a little bit more effort to fish, because once you cast it and it goes down a certain amount, depending on your reel, how much line capacity you have, you're going to be constantly casting, floating, reeling, casting, floating, reeling. So I mean, there is some work to it, but I'm telling you, the payoff is great. It's awesome. Thank you. But anyway, guys, that's the video. I wanted to get a how-to out for that rig. I know y'all have been asking multiple questions about it. I've been kind of vague about answering it because I just, like, it's a lot to explain about how to do this rig. It really is. So I figured from the amount of questions I've got, I decided I would just put it all in a video. That way, when you ask, I can just send this to you. If you have any more questions, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. I mean, like I said, guys, I'm kind of rusty on making these videos. Like I said, it's been 120 something days since I've posted something. If you want me to get into that, drop a video and show you what I've been doing, show you the few fishing trips that I have gone, and show you some of the spots that I've been to, the not so secret spots, that is. I'll make a video for that, because I mean, I have content laying around. It's just no great accomplishments fishing wise have really happened. I haven't got that 200-pound cobia. But I hope this video helped you all out. Please do like, comment, and subscribe. I want to say hello to all my new subscribers. Hey to my OG subscribers for your continued support. We will be getting out there fishing. You guys stay safe. All right, guys, later.
Balo!
What is balo?